This is another one of those videos that I needed to take time to get my brain right. Like, I try as much as possible to keep up at least somewhat with Superman news, but I pretty much have reached the point where I don't care because I just want Brian Michael Bendis off of it. But I saw this article yesterday, and yesterday wasn't a very good day for me, so there was no way I was going to do this video and have any level of calmness. But apparently, Superman has now revealed his alter ego of being Clark Kent. Now, supposedly, in this world, Superman is so stupid that he didn't think any problems would come of that. And, you know, it can only be because I have long determined that Brian Michael Bendis just hates Superman because all he seems to care about is the Superman universe villains and this new villain that he has created. And, you know, she works with Superman and she's able to keep her identity, and, you know, and she's awesome. And don't you just love this character that I created? Because Brian Michael Bendis just, you know, just wants to destroy established characters so he can just create his own. And I just kind of wish that he would just do his own thing at this point. You're not interested in writing Superman as a superhero. You want to do something else. And I can't stand DC, and I can't stand Dan Didio for giving Brian Michael Bendis like complete control over Superman, because they obviously are best friends and they obviously don't care if they destroy the whole industry and destroy characters. They're probably cackling it up because they just whatever. So what I really wanted to talk about is just the stupidity of Superman revealing himself. Now, I asked the question to a normie who does not read comic books but knows the character Superman, and I said, well, you know, apparently Superman has now revealed himself to also be Clark Kent, to which the question was, well, why would he do that? Because what's the point of being a superhero if you don't have your other identity that keeps you protected? And yeah, that was a normal person who said that, which then got me to thinking, apparently Brian Michael Bendis thinks he's so clever. And it really must be that he thinks that he's so clever and that Superman readers are just so stupid that he thinks that he can just get away with anything. And right now, because he has complete and total control, I guess he can, because, well, no one else is allowed to write Superman. And, you know, comic book shops have no choice but to take Superman into their shops. And so, you know, everyone's kind of trapped in this spiral of the stupid run of Brian Michael Bendis, which makes me not very enthused for 5G, because let's be honest, as long as I live in a world where Brian Michael Bendis continues to write Superman, like, I'm never going to be happy. Like, I wish that DC would just get themselves together and stop this foolishness, because they were doing so well with Rebirth. But, you know, like with many people who put themselves in a bubble, you don't want to hear criticism and you just want to do what you want to do, and you don't care about the real world consequences because you can convince yourself that everything is okay and that the people who aren't happy are just the people who are just whatever ist or obic that you can call them. So the new thing, and why I said that I think that Brian Michael Bendis just apparently he's more interested in the villains of the Superman universe, is because now we're supposed to be excited for the Superman Revenge Squad. which is a stupid name. I mean, it's a stupid name. It's a stupid premise, the whole thing. But of course, the Superman Revenge Squad is going to have his, OC, which is this character right here. And, he's just so gosh darn proud of this character that this character just has to keep coming back again and again and again because she is just so much better than Superman. I mean, she is everything under the sun. And, her, she's a co-worker at the Daily Planet. And if I remember correctly, she's a black chick because, well, apparently everyone that he has to do that's an OC that he creates has to be a black person because, well, diversity. And, because he's doing it for people like me because, I'm black and I'm a woman and I'm supposed to just appreciate the fact that, he who hates my favorite superhero is doing this for me. And that's kind of how I feel. I don't like Lex Luthor. I've never liked Lex Luthor, which makes Lex Luthor a great villain. But if everything was really about the battle between Lex Luthor and his manipulations and Superman, I would be fine because it's a simple premise and it's something that works, that works beautifully in this world. Now we're dealing with Superman not even being good at what he does and being just this complete and total idiot that everyone just gets to be smarter than and everyone gets to be better than. And then what becomes the point of Superman? And that really got me to thinking because it's not just Brian Michael Bendis. This has been over years of looking at, some of the tweets and things like that some of these comic book creators have put out there. And I just... I've come to continue to ask myself, if you don't like the character, why do you insist on writing for it? And I really, because it's something that does not make sense to me, because if I can't, I don't like Batman. So if DC came to me and said, we would like you to write a Batman comic. I don't like Batman, so I wouldn't do him justice. Therefore, I wouldn't do the comic because you need someone who's a good steward of the character. I'm tired of all this smugness as if these people think that they can just do whatever they want to do and then think that people are supposed to just continue to shell out money to them. Because that's really how they're behaving. And I can't stand when I see pictures of Brian Michael Bendis because I'm telling you, that smug face of his just gets on my last freaking nerves. It gets on my last nerve. And it got on my nerves before he even took over Superman. But it just clearly, Brian Michael Bendis just wants to do characters that he creates. And they all seem to be these female characters now, and they always seem to be these female of color now. Now, I know that he was responsible for Miles Morales, and, I don't have opinions on that because I don't really get into Marvel. And from what I've seen of him and what I've read of him, Miles Morales is a fine character. I did not like Riri Williams at all. I'm not reading this current run, but just the idea of this Robinson Good character, when I even first heard about her and looked at it, it just got on my last nerve because clearly in reading that Superman comic and looking through it, he's more interested in that character than he is in Superman. So my thing is why can't they just do their own thing now? Why must you take an established character and destroy everything about them and then get mad when customers, because we're not even talking fans at this point, we're talking customers, when customers complain and say, hey, I see that you don't like my favorite character that I'm giving good money for, because now think about it. In order for DC to make money, they've had to raise the prices, where before they were able to lower prices, which made it much easier for people to go in and feel comfortable taking chances on DC comic books. So now you've raised the prices again. Now you're talking about how, you're having trouble putting out the trade paperback, volumes. And, now you're having all these problems. And the answer to the solution to your problem is so easy, but they just literally won't do it, because that requires admitting that they're wrong. And it's one of those things where it's like, if normal people can notice, if normal people can look at something and say, I don't really care either way, but if they stop and take a moment and say, this doesn't really make sense, then you're doing it wrong. And that's what we're getting. We're getting an industry that just continues to do things wrong, and they insist on doing things wrong. And I know it's because they think that comic books should be a community whereby they get rid of everyone who is not them, and then they band together, not realizing that these are, especially Marvel and DC, you're supposed to be huge companies. You can't get away with having a community of just people like you, because people like you don't buy comic books. You are not even interested in superhero comic books. But what they want to do, and what they don't care about doing, is they want to run superhero comics into the ground. I remember, Magda Saggio being angry about having to do superhero comics because she just wanted to do, and yeah, I'm using, I hate that too, but because all Mags wanted to do was just write books about socialism and just the crazy books that make no sense. But Mags continues to get jobs because of certain checklists. And that really is upsetting. It really is upsetting, because then I have to look at articles like this where you take my favorite character and everything has to be about characters that are not the main character, because at this point you might as well stop calling it Superman comic and just call it whatever, this Red Cloud, because that's the name of the person, Red Cloud. So there's no point. I was trying to watch, or I did watch a I Love Comics live stream where they were looking at an article that was talking about the state of comics in 2020. And the reality is, comics in 2020 is, there's not much there. There's not much there. We're talking about companies that barely care anymore about the product that they're pushing out. And they don't have to care because, for Marvel, you have Disney money. And if you keep playing around, Disney will just farm those out. DC is owned by AT&T. They'll do the same thing. They'll farm out because they don't care. They just want to hold on to the properties because they want to do and make movies. They don't care about the comic book industry. And the problem is, at some point, when you've run the comics into the ground and you've run the movies into the ground, because looking at phase 4 of Marvel, you're already seeing problems. What's going to happen when you didn't take care of these characters? What's going to happen when people cease to be interested? Because there is going to come a point where people are no longer going to be interested in these characters because these companies did not take good care of them. They didn't do them justice. I've barely looked at information for 5G, but like 5G will not interest me in DC unless Brian Michael Bendis is off of Superman. But they seem to keep giving him more and more books because, you know, he and Dan Didio seem to like be in love with each other. And so it's just going to keep failing. Like you look at IDW, like they're already failing. Like these companies, like there needs to be so much change in these companies. And I do believe it is that idea of they think that comics should be a community, and not just that comics should be a community. It's that they believe that they're more clever than anybody else. And the sad part is, like anyone could have said, because there's a moment in this article where it's mentioned that, well, Superman got more trouble than he thought that he would get. Well, yeah, because only an idiot would think that revealing their alter ego would not bring problems. So you would literally have to be an idiot. But Brian Michael Bendis thinks that he's so much smarter than anybody else that he literally sees Superman, and by comparison, or I guess in, you know, like he sees the readers as being stupid, because we have to be stupid because we're not him. And I know I'm tired, and I know I keep saying a lot that I'm tired of the way that this is going, but it's sort of like, you know, this is a pop culture channel. This is a pop culture channel. And when, you know, like I realized yesterday that I was not in a very happy place, and I was kind of upset because every kind of hobby that I enjoy is being ruined by these people. And like when you begin to realize that you're losing every avenue of escape, you begin to ask yourself, like, then, like, what are you going to be able to do? Like, what am I going to do when the comic book industry fails? When, like, my favorite television shows, when my favorite, you know, like, art channels, when everything fails due to this overt agenda-based, you know, SJW, NPC, whatever you want to call it, people coming in to actively destroy these things. Like even with sports, like they won't even leave sports alone. Like what are people going to do when their backs are against the wall and they're not allowed a single escape? I know I've mentioned it before that I think it's a very dangerous game that these people are playing. And it is a dangerous game that people are playing, because I don't see the backlash as, like, there is going to be a backlash that's going to come. And I don't believe it's going to be a violent one. At least I would hope that it isn't, you know, but I do believe, like I've said, I don't mind if Hollywood loses a lot of money, because I think that they should lose a lot of money. Because if you're going to keep putting out agenda-filled crap, you should lose all your money. Same thing with comics. If all you're going to do is agenda, I think you should lose all your money. Because at this point, the only thing that people should be considering is what's going to be the best use of my dollars. And I would not mind having more money in my pocket. Like, I wouldn't mind having more money in my pocket. But it would be sad in a way, because if I had more money in my pocket, but I couldn't invest in the things that I loved doing, like it wouldn't be a very peaceful kind of living to a degree. Like, because I want to be able to have those moments where, you know, when I don't want to have to listen to the news, and I don't want to have to listen to the bad things going on, and I don't want to have to deal with regular everyday life, I should be able to have something that gives me that moment to just turn my brain off. And like, it's not going to be a good thing when people get tired of the other side constantly telling them you cannot relax. Like that, I mean, that's just, that goes without saying. It's not going to be a very good time when people get tired of it. And like, I don't know when, like, you can see it happening. So I'm not even going to say I don't know when the full turnaround is going to happen, but I'm glad to see the glimpses of it. I'm glad to hear the conversations of people that are getting tired of, this insanity. Like I'm glad every time I see someone wake up and begin to look around and say, what is going on? Because I know that the more that people do that, the more that you're able to focus and pay attention, like the better it will just, be. And like, it'll be able to, kind of like usher in more competition, which is really like, I mean, for me, that really is the thing that I know is going to be so necessary, is more competition, because there needs to be more competition. I'm hoping that for 2020, and I might try to do it, is start looking a little bit more at independent comics. Like, I know it's going to take a while, because I miss going to the shop, and I do still want to support comics that are going to be good comics. I have a new kind of like list of Indiegogos that I've backed, and I might do a video just kind of looking at those before they come. But, I still maintain that Indiegogo model is not a very sustainable one, because it is expensive. And then, unless artists can get better at their turnaround, eventually people are going to get tired of constantly waiting. And then that is going to turn more into a community. And that will not be good for creativity and the industry at all, because the industry can't just be a community. It has to be an industry. It has to be a competition. It has to be open to all people, kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of like my slight Superman rant / thinking into the future kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, like I still, I make people laugh, because I still cannot, like, I still just cannot, I can't, like, I'm even just thinking Brian Michael Bendis' name, and I can't say it normally, because I just can't stand him at all for what he's doing to Superman. So I'm going to go before I start ranting again on him. So if you like this, click the like button, click the subscribe button, do the bell for notifications, share this, do all of that, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.